Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Collider Media Studio at the Cinema Center at South by Southwest 2025. I feel like a lot of people out there know how much I like genre films, and oh boy, does Mermaid deliver big. First off, huge congratulations on the film.
Thank you very much.
It is something else. Clearly, I know what it is, but because we're celebrating it as a film festival debut, a lot of our audience is first going to learn about it right now, maybe. So would you mind doing the honors and giving a brief synopsis?
I'll do my best. It's kind of the second time I've really said this out loud, but yeah, this is a sort of a weird Florida fable, I would call it, an oddball sort of fairy tale. It's a love letter to Florida. I grew up in the town where we shot the movie, and this is sort of just a love letter to the American Florida. Is just filled with different Floridian characters, but it's about a Florida man who finds a wounded mermaid, a Percocet-addicted Florida man who finds a wounded mermaid, and he's sort of at odds with his family a little bit. And he starts this strange relationship. The only creature he can sort of bond with in life just happens to be this strange fish. And they connect in a weird way. And I think they sort of need each other in the story. And I guess that's about it. How was that? Little long.
Very, very well done. No, you could. I love when you explain it thoroughly, but I could be able to turn to the audience and say, like, that gave you a good description, but like, you have no idea. You have no idea.
It felt good to me. It felt strong. You got the point across. It's hard to describe. It really is. Of all the things I've ever worked on, it's so hard to describe, but I think that's what makes it such a great movie. It's like, you got to see the movie to even understand what it is.
The tone of it is, I mean, now I'm getting ahead a little, but the tone of it is so curious too. And I think you said something like this in your director's statement where you were talking about, like, I guess embracing like the bizarre nature of it and the fantasy, but while capturing it in a more grounded, realistic manner. And I thought those two things paired together so well. Oh,
I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, I'm a big fan of beach movies. I love Jaws, obviously. I love, we were talking about this earlier, but the Florida Project, different. It's a whole bunch of different beach movies, but you have this genre thing to play off of, which kind of turns it on its head. It's like, how can you combine those and sort of make that work? So that was the idea anyways.
I jumped ahead a little. I wanted to talk about the development of this story, and you're going to get one of my favorite questions to ask, especially when someone has such curious high concept that they're working with. What was idea number one, the thing that started this all? But then also, did you have a break story moment, something you came up with along the way that made you say to yourself, my idea feels whole now?
I think it was two things sort of coinciding. First of all, this location, when you make indie films, a lot of the time it's like, oh, we have this place we can shoot. And my executive producer, we grew up in the same town. We met in LA, but met in the same town.
This is Billy.
Yeah, he just left. I wish he was here. But it was his 30th birthday party, and I was like, that's so crazy. I grew up on this beach, and we passed this old house that was his aunt's house, and we ended up just having drinks there for his birthday, and that's the house in the movie. And I was like, 10 years ago, I was like, we have to make a movie here. So that was always kind of in the back of my mind. And then I've kind of always, like I said, I've always loved beach movies, and the mermaid thing, you have Rolodex of things in your head, and that was one of them, having a drug addict guy find a mermaid. It's funny to me that it's in Tampa. It's funny that it's on the Gulf of Mexico. Like, there's just something, it shouldn't be there, but it's like, that's part of the joke, I think, a little bit. So
I want to get to the mermaid of it all in a minute. But first, Johnny, I have to come your way because I believe you executive produced the movie. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this your first time headlining a feature film?
I think it is, yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
I guess I have to start with this question then. When this opportunity comes your way, like, what does it mean to you at this point in your career to be number one on the call sheet?
Well, I mean, I think it was first, I thought Tyler was full of shit. And I thought this wasn't going to happen because you hear about so many things. So many people like send you a thing or like, oh, I got you in mind for this project. And you're like, okay, can I read it? It's like, well, I gotta write it first or something like that. And then you never hear back from them. So it was just amazing that this thing actually coalesced. And I met Tyler because I saw Butt Boy and I was a huge fan of it. And I just like messaged him telling him, I love your movie. And we got lunch and we got along great. And it just sort of happened so organically that, I mean, I don't even know what the question was, but I guess
the first time I met you, I said, what were your thoughts on mermaids?
Well, yeah.
I think it was that first thought because I was like, it was the beginning of it. But
Did everyone get asked that question? And what are your thoughts on mermaids?
I don't think I've got asked that question.
You probably have a lot of thoughts on mermaids now. Right.
she knows more about it than anyone.
Expert.
Before I get to the mermaid of it all, I want to ask the three of you about working with Johnny. I'm going to make this really awkward for you.
Please.
I'm sorry, but it feels necessary because, again, first time leading a feature film, and I think you deserve many, many more similar opportunities. So for each of you, what was it like working with him as a scene partner and a leader on this set that you would be excited for more actors to experience on his future films?
Johnny is a wonderful person to work with, just so present with you in the room. Even if he's focusing on like what he has to bring to the scene or what he has to do, he's very open to you. So it makes you feel like you're there with him. And especially when you look like a scary, ugly mermaid and he can see the human in you, it's like, oh, that's really nice. So that warm, even little stressed feeling is really comforting to be around and to work
Comes
with.
through quite strongly in the movie.
Right.
I came in very late, and but I felt pretty comforted just when I got there. Just kind of meeting people very quickly and just having this huge day, and it was very easy working with you.
Just so you know, we let go of, I'm not going to mention any names, we let go of an actor last minute. He had maybe 24 hours to learn that giant monologue. He was word perfect and just, it's one of my favorite actors ever, and it was just so cool to see. So I just want to make sure you get that praise. He knocked it out of the park. So that whole end monologue, 24 hours.
Saved the movie, really saved the movie.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of things, I've been a part of a lot of productions where it's like, I get slotted in last minute, but I always feel like that's the right decision. That was what was supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. I feel like we're so lucky to have Kevin on it.
Oh, I'll emphasize that a little more. Sorry to cut you off, Kirk, but Kevin, what was it like when this opportunity came your way so last minute? And I guess what was it about this team that gave you the confidence that you could jump in at that point, especially with not only just a big monologue, but like a pretty significant set piece in the movie?
Well, it was just like a phone call, and it was like, here's the scene. It's about a mermaid. We'll send you the script, which I didn't have time to even read, but I thought the scene was so brilliant and so dark and funny that I just was like, gosh, I have to go do this. I have to.
Spot on instincts.
Yeah. But I didn't even read it before we shot it. I read the film afterwards because it was too...
Yeah. We shot pickups months later, and he was still doing the monologue. He still had it memorized. Just probably 6 months later, and he was just saying it out loud as we were doing pickups. So
Fascinating experience with making a movie.
seared into my brain.
Kirk, I'll come back your way with
Hey, so you
singing
don't ever
Johnny's
really
praises.
have to get to me, so I'm just happy
Great.
happy to be here.
Okay.
I'm not here to talk about Johnny though, but that's all right. It was fun working with him. It was a gentle ride. I ran the strip joint, and he seems like someone that would be in there, so it was easy. To me, he felt like my son, and then eventually I found out we're the same age. So, well, not quite,
Close enough.
I'm kidding, but it was great for me. He's a comedian, I'm a comedian, so we were kindred, and we met at the Comedy Store with Tyler, and Tyler put us together, and it was a...
Side note too, I've always been a giant fan of Kirk's. I grew up 12 years ago, I would just go see him at the Comedy Store all the time. And Johnny, I think you reached out to him sort of like, I think it was an Instagram DM, and we were like, I was thinking of Kirk for the movie, and I had a very surreal day where Kirk picked me up. I just used to watch him all the time. He was like, oh, come over, picked me up at my place in his car, took me to the Comedy Store, got me a booth. I was like, this is so cool and surreal. And
It was just fun to pick up somebody and take him there. It felt like a date.
Felt like a date. It was same day. It was crazy. But anyways, I'm just a giant fan of his too. So it was very cool.
I love hearing that. All right, I gotta get to the mermaid stuff now. I've like a mile-long list of questions. Tyler, I'll give you my first one because I love mermaid mythology and designing that kind of look. So I'll go with the look first. How did you picture your mermaid looking when you first started the project? And then how does that compare to the final look that everyone will see in the finished film?
There's a story with that.
Oh boy, I'm ready for it.
Okay, so I was working with the guy for about 4 months on a creature design for this, and I had a very specific sort of thing we were trying to do. And he was sort of this like mad scientist sort of character, real character. And we were about to leave for Florida to go down for prep, and he called and sort of was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. And we were leaving the next morning. And so we were going to make a mermaid movie with no mermaid. And luckily, Dane, our amazing producer, made so many phone calls, and he knew Mark Villalobos, who worked closely and ended up doing it. So what was 4 months became 10 days. We had to push the whole schedule, and now they had 10 days to create this creature. So to answer your question, I had no idea what it was even going to look like until the day of, because we were just in this circumstance. Not to mention a hurricane had just hit. They had to everyone that was in Florida had to evacuate. So there's some horror stories that go along with this. That said, they did such an incredible job, and it was it was crazy. I met with them. I told them exactly what I was thinking. They ran with it. They were sending me pictures as we were in prep for other things, and then Avery came aboard. So another thing that happened was we had somebody else hired to play the mermaid, who we had a green card situation where we had to let her go. Unfortunately, she was there, but luckily we got Avery out of it. But we then had to take new body castings. Avery had to go, and you can explain everything you had to do because I don't even fully understand it, but it was just a lot at once. And it was like, all right, so this movie is called Mermaid, and I remember I walked into the trailer. I'm like, here it is. And I was like,
you keep saying like so many things happen so last minute. And I'm like, how do you do it? But then all those elements are just absolutely stellar in the finished product.
Well, I think there's something to that with a lot of things. I think there's something to that. I think that's like kind of what my favorite part about the movie is. I always say it has frayed edges, and that's kind of what makes it special. So.
Oh, I like the verbiage you just used too. I feel like I'm going to repeat that in the future now.
Oh, cool.
Avery, I'll come your way now to talk about this whole process. And also because I was trying to do a little research. This is your first feature. What a way to jump into feature filmmaking. And I was reading a little bit about a dance background, I believe. What was it about your dance background that you think teed you up for success playing a mermaid while wearing all that prosthetic work?
Yes. The movement of it was the easiest for me. And that's just because I am a dancer at heart. And that was something that I wasn't nervous of. I was way more nervous of all the things I've never done before. But I'm very open just as a person to trying new things, and stepping in and going full force was easier than I thought. Like at first I was like, oh, this is going to be this or this or this, but just going with the flow, and everything was wonderful. And even the people that I started working with, like I didn't know anybody at first, and it was really warm and welcoming to come in. And even with the chaos of like, a lot of people didn't ever see me out of makeup until like maybe the last day, or like occasionally throughout the day. Right. People would be like, what are you in the film? And I'm like, oh, I play the mermaid. And it was like so hard to connect at first because like you're so in and out of character, or, you know, it's hard to tell who I am as the mermaid when I'm in makeup. So all of the things put together, and it being my first feature, it was just a wonderful like group of chaos and nuance that was just great to jump into. Easier for me to dive into things full force than to take it slow. I feel like I do better when it's all at once.
Oh, you are meant to be in this space. I feel like that's like indie filmmaking for you. I have to wrap with you soon. I wanted to make sure to squeeze in one particular question for you, Tyler, because I was reading in our press notes, you had said while writing it, it became extremely personal, not only in a career sense, but personally on many levels as well. And then you went on to say, I wouldn't dare bore you with the details. Now's the time to bore us with the details.
I don't even remember writing that.
What did come up along the way that made you realize this story was more personal than you ever realized at the start?
I think I meant that more so from a filmmaking sense, that, you know, he's a loner in the story. And I've kind of always felt that way a little bit with the movies I'm trying to make. Just being a little bit on the outside of things, and you know, it's the classic punk rock thing. I think that's really all I meant by it. And it just becomes, I guess personally in my life, I've felt like Doug. I think everybody has at times. You've been in certain rooms and whatever, and not like now. I feel very comfortable here, but yeah, I think it was that, and then also in the career sense was just my movie making career, I guess.
Can definitely understand that.
Skip was actually very personal for me as well.
Let's hear it. Bring it on.
I've just always wanted to own a strip joint. So it
Yep.
kind of balanced out, and I had the mustache, and I just went in there, and it felt right. So
I always
just
wanted to
wanted
get over leveraged and tons of debt for making a giant tank.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So that's all I need to say is it worked out for me as well.
Meant to be.
Yeah.
Johnny, you know what I'm rapping with here?
Okay.
Fallout.
Fallout's a
love-
great show.
I love the show. I want to ask about season 2. The first question I have to ask that I don't know if you'll be able to answer is like, at this point, are you able to confirm you're back for season 2?
There's definitely a season 2 of the
Yes.
show. I've heard there's a season 2. You know, first hand, second hand, third hand. Season 2 is happening.
I'm going to dare to try one more question because
Okay.
I just want to. I want to see the whole story for every single character continue. I think everybody lands in a pretty interesting place.
Yeah.
Your character stands out big time in that respect. So maybe we'll do this like as a hypothetical or a theory type
Right.
question to keep you safe there. What do you think he maybe stands to gain from becoming a ghoul and leaving the brotherhood that he wouldn't have had in his life otherwise?
I don't know if Thaddeus understands how to answer any question whatsoever except for what he's going to do the next 5 minutes. So I feel like maybe, stands to gain. I mean, just staying alive because everyone just wants to stay alive. So I guess, yeah, I don't know. It's way too complicated for poor Thaddeus's brain.
I honestly feel like that was the perfect way to stay safe with your answer right now, but also in a way that's really applicable to that character and his
Yeah.
way of thinking.
I mean, I think I did
Perfect
answer it.
really.
Really,
Okay.
I mean, it kind of is. Job very well done. And also job very well done on Mermaid. I just love creature features. I love things that feel weird and embrace outsiders and those kinds of connections that we don't really expect. And I definitely feel a little like Doug. So I felt at home watching your movie. Congratulations.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.